Morning, Koto. Welcome to Tawa School Story Time for Thursday, the 7th of May. We are starting a new story. Today, we're going to be starting George's Marvellous Medicine by Roald Dahl. And also, we're going to read Green Eggs and Ham. I haven't done a Dr. Seuss story yet, so let's get stuck into that today. So, Green Eggs and Ham. I am Sam. Sam, I am. That's Sam I am. That's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you like them in a house? Would you like them with a mouse? I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you eat them in a box? Would you eat them with a fox? Not in a box, not with a fox, not in a house, not with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I would not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you? Could you? In a car? Eat them, eat them, here they are. I would not, could not in a car. You may like them, you will see, you may like them in a tree. I would not, could not in a tree, not in a car. You let me be. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here and or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. A train, a train, a train, a train. Could you, would you on a train? Not on a train, not in a tree, not in a car. Sam, let me be. I would not, could not in a box. I would not, could not with a fox. I will not eat them with a mouse. I will not eat them in a house. I will not eat them here or there. I will not eat them anywhere. I do not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Say in the dark, here in the dark. Would you, could you in the dark? I would not, could not in the dark. Would you, could you in the rain? I would not, could not in the rain. I'm not in the dark, not on a train, not in a car, not in a tree. I do not like them, Sam, you see. Not in a house, not in a box, not with a mouse, not with a fox. I will not eat them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. You do not like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. Could you, would you with a goat? I would not, could not with a goat. Would you, could you on a boat? I would not on a boat. I will not with a goat. I will not eat them in the train. I will not eat them in the rain. I will not eat them on a train, not in the dark, not in a tree, not in a car. You let me be. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I do not eat them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them. Underwater. You do not like them, so you say, try them, and you may. Try them, and you may, I say. Sam, if you will let me be, I will try them, you will see. Sam, I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam I am. And I would eat them in a boat, and I would eat them with a goat, and I will eat them in the rain and in the dark and on a train and in a car and in a tree. They're so good, so good, so good, you see. So I will eat them in a box. I will eat them with a fox. I will eat them in a house. I will eat them with a mouse, and I will eat them here and there. I will eat them anywhere. I do so like green eggs and ham. Thank you. Thank you, Sam I am. So we actually did like them after all of that. All right. George's Marvellous Medicine is the story that we're going to be reading over the next wee while. Now, it does come with a little bit of a warning. It says, warning to readers, do not try to make George's marvelous medicine yourselves at home. It could be dangerous. So this is one of those do not try at home. First chapter, Grandma. I'm going shopping in the village, George's mother said to George on Saturday morning, so be a good boy and don't get up to mischief. This was a silly thing to say to a small boy at any time. It immediately made him wonder what sort of mischief he might get up to. And don't forget to give Grandma her medicine at 11 o'clock, the mother said. And out she went, closing the back door behind her. Grandma, who was dozing in her chair by the window, opened one wicked little eye and said, "No, you heard what your mother said. George, don't forget my medicine." "No, Grandma," George said, "and try to behave yourself for once in a while she's away." "Yes, Grandma," George said. George was bored to tears. He didn't have a brother or a sister. His father was a farmer, and the farm they lived on was miles away from anywhere, so there was never any children to play with. He was tired of staring at pigs and hens and cows and sheep. He was especially tired of having to live in the same house as that grizzly old grunion of a grandma. Looking after her all by himself was hardly the most exciting thing to do on a Saturday morning. You can make a nice cup of tea for me for a start," Grandma said to George. "That'll keep you out of mischief for a few minutes." "Yes, Grandma," George said. George couldn't help disliking Grandma. She was a selfish, grumpy old woman. She had pale brown teeth and a small puckered up mouth like a dog's bottom. "How much sugar in your tea today, Grandma?" "1 spoon and no milk," she said. Most grandmothers are lovely, kind, helpful old ladies, but not this one. She spent all day and every day sitting in her chair by the window, and she was always complaining, grousing, grouching, grumbling, griping about something or other. Never once, even on her best days, had she smiled at George and said, "Well, how are you this morning, George?" Or, "Why don't you and I have a game of snakes and ladders?" Or, "How was school today?" She didn't seem to care about other people, only about herself. Miserable old grouch. George went into the kitchen and made Grandma a cup of tea with a tea bag. He put 1 spoon of sugar in it with no milk. He stirred the sugar well and carried the cup into the living room. Grandma sipped the tea. "It's not sweet enough," she said. "Put more sugar in." George took the cup back to the kitchen and added another spoonful of sugar. He stirred it again and carried it carefully into Grandma. "Where's the saucer?" she said. "I won't have a cup without a saucer." George fetched her saucer. "And what about a teaspoon, if you please?" "I've stirred it for you, Grandma. I stirred it well." "I'll stir my own tea, thank you very much," she said. "Fetch me a teaspoon." George fetched her a teaspoon. When George's mother or father were home, Grandma never ordered George about like this. It was only when she had him on her own that she treated him badly. "You know what's the matter with you?" the old woman said, staring at George over the rim of her teacup with those bright, wicked little eyes. "You're growing too fast. Boys who grow too fast become stupid and lazy." "But I can't help it if I'm growing fast, Grandma," George snapped. "Of course you can," she snapped. "Growing's a nasty childish habit." "But we have to grow, Grandma. If we didn't grow, we'd never be grown-ups." "Rubbish, boy, rubbish," she said. "Look at me. Am I growing? Certainly not." "But you did once, Grandma." "Only a very little," said the old woman answered. "I gave up growing when I was extremely small, along with all the other nasty childish habits like laziness and disobedience and greed and sloppiness and untidiness and stupidity. You haven't given up any of these things, have you?" "But I'm only a little boy, Grandma." "You're 8 years old," she snorted. "That's old enough to know better. If you don't stop growing soon, it'll be too late." "Too late for what, Grandma?" "It's ridiculous," she went on. "You're nearly as tall as me already." George took a good look at Grandma. She certainly was a very tiny person. Her legs were so short she had to have a footstool to put her feet on, and her head only came halfway up the back of the armchair. "Daddy said it's fine for a man to be tall," George said. "Don't listen to your daddy," Grandma said. "Listen to me." "But how do I stop myself growing?" George asked her. "Eat less chocolate," Grandma said. "Does chocolate make you grow?" "Makes you grow the wrong way," she snapped. "Up instead of down." Grandma sipped some tea, but never took her eyes from the little boy who stood before her. "Never grow up," she said. "Always down." "Yes, Grandma. And stop eating chocolate. Eat cabbage instead." "Cabbage? Oh, no, I don't like cabbage," George said. "It's not what you like. It's what you don't like," Grandma snapped. "It's what's good for you that counts. From now on, you must eat cabbage 3 times a day, mountains of cabbage, and if it's got caterpillars in it, even better." "Ew," George said. "Caterpillars give you brains," the old woman said. "Mummy washes them down the sink," George said. "Mummy's as stupid as you are," Grandma said. Caterpillars don't taste of anything without a few boiled caterpillars in it. Or cabbage doesn't taste like anything without a few boiled caterpillars in it. Slugs too. Not slugs, George cried. I wouldn't eat slugs. Whenever I see a live slug on a piece of lettuce, I gobble it up quickly before it cools away. Delicious. She squeezed her lips together tight so that her mouth became a tiny wrinkled home. Delicious, she said. Worms and slugs and beetly bugs, you don't know what's good for you. You're joking, Grandma. I never joke, she said. Beetles are perhaps best of all. They go crunch. Grandma, that's gross. The old hag grinned, showing those pale brown teeth. Sometimes, if you're lucky, she said, you get a beetle inside the stem of a stick of celery. That's what I like. Grandma, how could you? You find all sorts of nice things in sticks of raw celery, the old woman went on. Sometimes it's earwigs. I don't want to hear about it, cried George. A big fat earwig is very tasty, Grandma said, licking her lips. But you've got to be very quick, my dear. When you put one of those in your mouth, it has a pair of sharp nippers on its back, and if it grabs your tongue with those, it never lets go. And before you've got to bite the earwig first, chop, chop, before it bites you. George started edging towards the door. He wanted to get as far away as possible from this filthy old woman. You're trying to get away from me, aren't you? She said, pointing a finger straight at George's face. You're trying to get away from Grandma. Little George stood by the door, staring at the old hag in the chair. She stared back at him. Could it be, George wondered, that she was a witch? He'd always thought witches were only in fairy tales, but now he wasn't so sure. Come closer to me, little boy, she said, beckoning him with a horny finger. Come closer to me, and I will tell you secrets. George didn't move. Grandma didn't move either. I know a great many secrets, she said. And suddenly she smiled. It was a thin, icy smile, the kind a snake might make just before it bites you. Come over here, Grandma. Over to Grandma. She'll whisper secrets to you. George took a step backwards, edging closer to the door. You mustn't be frightened of your old Grandma, she said, smiling the icy smile. George took another step backwards. Some of us, she said, all at once. She was leaning forward in her chair and whispering in a throaty sort of voice George had never heard her use before. Some of us, she said, have magic powers that can twist the creatures of this earth into wondrous shapes. A tingle of electricity flashed down the length of George's spine. He began to feel frightened. Excuse me. Some of us, the old woman went on, have fire on our tongues and sparks in our bellies and wizardry at the tips of our fingers. Some of us know secrets that will make your hair stand straight up on end and your eyes pop out of their sockets. George wanted to run away, but his feet seemed stuck to the floor. You know how to make your nails drop off and teeth grow out your fingers instead. George began to tremble. It was her face that frightened him most of all, the frosty smile, the brilliant, unblinking eyes. We know how you have to wake up in the morning with a long tail coming out from behind you. Grandma! He cried out. Stop! We know secrets, my dear, about dark places where dark things live and squirm and slither all over each other. George made a dive for the door. Doesn't matter how far you run, you heard her say. You won't ever get away. George ran into the kitchen, slamming the door behind him. Wow, that sounds a little bit scary. Let's find out about George's marvellous plan. George sat himself down at the table in the kitchen. He was shaking a little. Oh, how he hated Grandma. He really hated that horrid old witchy woman. And all of a sudden, he had a tremendous urge to do something about her. Something whopping, something absolutely terrific, a real shocker, a sort of explosion. He wanted to blow away the witchy smell that hung about her in the next room. He may have only been 8 years old, but he was a brave little boy. He was ready to take this old woman on. I'm not going to be frightened of her, he said softly to himself. But he was frightened. And that's why he wanted Sonny to explode her away. Well, not quite away, but he did want to shake the old woman up a bit. Very well then, what should it be? This whopping, terrific, exploding shocker for Grandma. He would have liked to put a firework banger under her chair, but he didn't have one. He would have liked to put a long green snake down the back of her dress, but he didn't have a long green snake. He would have liked to put 6 big black rats in the room with her and lock the door, but he didn't have 6 black rats. As George sat there pondering this interesting problem, his eye fell upon the bottle of Grandma's brown medicine standing on the sideboard. Rotten stuff it seemed to be. 4 times a day a large spoonful was shoveled into her mouth, and it didn't do her the slightest bit of good. She was always just as horrid after she'd had it as she'd been before. The whole point of the medicine surely was to make a person better, If it didn't do that, then it was quite useless. So, thought George suddenly, aha, I know exactly what I'll do. I shall make her a new medicine, one that is so strong and so fierce and so fantastic, it'll either cure her completely or blow off the top of her head. I will make her a magic medicine, a medicine no doctor in the world has ever made before. George looked at the kitchen clock. It said 10:05. There was nearly an hour left before Grandma's next dose was due at 11. Here we go then, cried George, jumping up from the table. A magic medicine it shall be. So give me a bug and a jumping flea, give me 2 snails and lizards 3, and a slimy squiggler from the sea, and a poisonous sting of a bumblebee, and the juice from the jube of a jujube tree, and the powdered bone of a wombat's knee, and 100 other things as well, each with a rather nasty smell. I'll stir them up, I'll boil them long, a mixture tough, a mixture strong, and then hey-ho, and down it goes. A nice big spoonful, hold your nose, just gulp it down and have no fear. How do you like it, Granny dear? Will she pop? Will she explode? Will she go flying down the road? Will she go poof in a puff of smoke, start fizzing like a can of Coke? Who knows? Not I. Let's wait and see. I'm glad it's neither you nor me. Oh, Grandma, if you only knew what I had in store for you. Well, next chapter is called George Begins to Make the Medicine, and we will continue on with that tomorrow. Hey, have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you all for our last session of the week. Take care. Ka kite anō.